Hi team, welcome back. Continuing with our Python API automation part 4. Let's take a quick look at what we did previous session and then we'll continue. Primarily we looked at the different types of data structures or collections within Python of how we can store data. Dictionary being the closest one that we're trying to get to. But the whole focus with our keywords, key data value pairs, how we adopting JSON kind of a data into it, and how we're working with both series and data frames. I think we spoke a very brief introduction. We started using some of the code. There are also other ways, team, like OpenPyXL, and you can directly use mock also to do some API testings and so on. We'll explore a few of them as we go along, but primarily different approaches to achieve the same thing. So why are we talking functions, Lambda, try, exit, match case, and switch case in today's session? Why is that necessary for us to learn to achieve what we need to do with our programming? So in our programming, in the pandas that we checked, and how we're trying to do is primarily that we have some data set. This is the example that we did. But if I have an external CSV, I'm able to read that in and be able to as a panda initially, and then we have a data frame that we're working against this specific CSV that once we read it. What we've got to is how we are collecting the input for each of the data frames. So we're taking the scenario where we have a column name, and then for I in range of max rows, once we know the number of rows, we are taking the row number through the LOC method within pandas. So that is giving us the value, and here is where we were able to print out all the required data that we wanted. What we have not done is sending a request, and that is what we're going to be doing today. So to do that, very simple introduction to functions and Lambda team. Then we'll go back to implementing them. So decent tutorials with W3 schools. I like them only because they're simple to quickly go through and understand the basic concepts. What are the different features we have with the features that Python comes inbuilt with, what we can use. So here is the syntax of a very simple function team, where I use a keyword called def to define a function. I give it my own name, and I give it a set of code or steps to follow. And the most important part of this function that you'll notice are the arguments. Arguments are the inputs that you send to a function when you're calling it. So once I put an argument in it, for example, in this case, the decent one, there are a lot of features team within how you can do the arguments within Python. Simple ones, but very handy. So let's explore them. Nothing to import. Functions are inbuilt, so we don't need to import a separate library for it. In this case, what we see is once we have the same function that I'm calling it 3 times, but each time fname becomes my argument. In this case, it's only a single argument. So all I do is I say ML, Tobias, Linus, these are the different names that I'm sending. And each time when I execute it, or whenever I execute it, we get accordingly those details outputted for us. There we go. So that's probably the first names with a common last name that we're printing out. Since the last name is common, we're trying to reuse that method and see if the space before, so that gives a space between both the names, first and last. So very simple, we have a definition of a function and what it does. The same with when you want to send multiple arguments, team. So it's not necessary that I'm only sending one argument. So things like I can send first name, last name, and here if you see space is being added as an additional concatenation in between. The so 1 parameter, 2 parameters, or n parameters. Sometimes you don't know how many you're going to send, what you're going to send. So instead of having to redefine the entire method with different types of or different number of inputs, you could do the star operator on the arguments that basically gives me the ability to look at it like a list. So anything that I'm sending, I could send it. It could be 1, 2, 3, 100. When I use the star operator, I'm able to easily get to the specific index. So in this case, it is going to be the third one. So since the index counting starts with 0, we're looking at the third one being printed. Let's do a quick run to see that these are in shape. And then a return. What else is there? A few more attributes, which is not that needed. Default parameter value is good. In case we don't provide anything, for example, in this case, country is Norway by default. I am from, and then when I call my function Sweden, India, Brazil, I'm able to have a default to it. Passing a list of arguments. So for example, here is function, and I'm taking it as one item as an argument. So for x input, we'll loop through every item within that list of food. In this case, when I send these 3 items, it is going to loop through that. Return values, you can return anything based on what you're sending. So, I'm sorry, it could be a simple true, fail, or true or false, or pass, fail, or like an assertion that you can do, or it can just be returning a value as well. So Boolean, an integer, a text, anything is fine. So that's primarily about functions team and how we apply it. But what is the Lambda then? Some of these new things that you might have not heard can be confusing when you hear it for the first time. But it's a very simple thing, team. Lambda is nothing but if I have a very small function achieving a small purpose, I don't have to use extra coding, any extra characters to achieve the same purpose. So why not make it simpler? Instead of having a def as a keyword, in this case we use lambda as a keyword. So look at the simplicity of this team. This is one lambda. So you are basically writing a function in line team. So when I say x equals lambda itself, I'm saying this is my function. And the way it is add 10 to an argument a and return the result. So primarily, what it is returning here is a and b, and return the result. Multiply arguments a and b. Okay, there you go. So whatever I'm sending as a value, the 5 goes into the first character here, that is the a, not the character, but the variable argument name. And then to the right of the colon is the data that it will return or perform at that point. So whenever I say print x of 5, or in this case 2 arguments a star b, I'm able to call this function whenever I want. It is automatically doing whatever it is programmed to do, but in a very, very linear way. That's primarily what Lambda is doing. So let's try this. I'm expecting it to print 15 here, and I'm expecting it to print 5, 6, 13 out here. So let's run this. Everyone with me, team? You're understanding the basic difference? Function, I can do a lot more. I can write a little bit more effective code. But when it comes to Lambda, I have a single line where if I'm able to achieve the whole purpose in a single line, then I'm good. Great, perfect. So this is good. This is basics of functions in Lambda team. It will help us to apply it. Let's also do one more. This is 05. Match switch case. So there's a traditional switch case, especially when I have to select between, let's look at this, or try except also I wanted to show you. So these 4, once we learn the basic simple fundamentals, it will be easy for us to, to apply it into a project requirement. All right, let's go here. I'm using Firefox because sometimes Google Chrome is kind of slowing things down. Some websites. All right. Nice article, team, that I read through recently, and it basically is talking about switch case statement and how and where we use, and then the introduction of match and case from Python 3.1. So if you're someone who still has Python earlier versions and not 3.1 or 3.13, which we currently using the training, then your match and case may not work. But what is the difference? We'll get to, or rather, we can explore later. What is the scenario when we use team? So if I have a simple if else where my entire code is based on a set of conditions. I did paste, it's taking a little time, or maybe it doesn't. Yeah, maybe not. So the first thing is a variable day. Input is the keyword or inbuilt Python method through which we are collecting information from the user from the screen. So I'm saying enter the day of the week and then capitalizing it. And out here, I think this is just a simple if else if match case is here. So that's coming up. For example, capital S method ensures user inputs follow the example. It's with the format Monday instead of Monday. Case, okay, pattern matching case Saturday or Sunday. So here it is the vertical bar, vertical bar is primarily an OR operator to be able to compare both. So what are we looking at in this code first? So once I enter it, if the day is Saturday or the day is Sunday, then I'm saying my day is a weekend. This small feature here where I'm saying f of whatever I give in quotes gives me the ability to put any existing variables in curl brackets and use it within the code. So primarily, let me show you. It is trying to achieve the simple f of, and these are small things I want you to start learning in adapt. Okay, copy hopefully. All right. This is basically saying that I have day I don't need curl brackets. This is a variable plus is a weekend. So instead of putting it this way, I'm using a different representation to achieve the same. Where I'm able to say that, listen, there will be a parameter coming in, anything in curl brackets, look for it as a variable. It's going to replace that with the value. So out here, depending on what I send, it is going to give the print of it. So you see that enter day of the week, that is the title that you put within the input method. So now all I'll do is enter, let's say Tuesday. Tuesday is a weekday and end of the code. So you could use a simple while loop and do things like while I is not equal to, let's say, 0. And here I equals 1, I'm going to say, and after the else if, I could do things like just exploring it, taking it a little bit more later. I want to check more, then I'm continuing. Rather enter 1 to stop or any other key to continue. And that's all I'm doing for now. It's a number that I'm getting. Do I need to convert it into integer? Because let's see. If I need to convert it into integer, we can do a quick conversion. but I'm just doing a while, and then what all I'm going to do is I'm going to break out of the loop as long as the condition is met. So the break statement becomes important. Uh, on a specific occasion, I want to exit a loop. So while I is less than 6, I starting with 1, it will keep on printing I. And unless I increment I in this case, it will be an infinite loop and you'll be stuck in it. You'll have to kill the program. But what I did here is if I is equal to 3, then we break out of it. We come out of the loop and we're done with it. So here in this case, what I'll say is, while I is not equal to 0, keep continuing. Enter 0 to stop. Sorry. Now here, what I'm going to do, if I, actually that is enough. I don't need to do another verification of if I, because while I not equal to 0, then we do this print. Come on. Yeah. Let's test this. So what am I trying to do? I'm trying to repeat the same code, but I want to have the ability to do multiple times. So what if I enter sun? That's not a valid day of the week. Want to check more? An exclamation or a question mark will be better. Enter 0 to stop or any other key to continue. So I'm going to say 1. That's, wow. When I said 1 and I entered, see what is happening? It is doing this. Why is it not taking the input of the day of the input again, team? Any idea? Any idea, team? Come on, you're all listening in. You should be able to figure out why is it not asking me to enter the day of the week again. I'm able to loop through it. Let's see what happens if I enter 0. So does it at least come out of it and say the end? Well, I is not equal to 0. Print type of I. I want to see what is the type of I, because if it is a string, it's a problem too. Yeah, we can do a string then. Stop and rerun. See, this is going in infinite loop. I was not able to reach what I wanted to reach. Sunday, that's not a valid day. If I say, why didn't it want to check more? Okay, so I'll say 1. Class is string, that's the problem. So either I convert it into string, data type conversion is a simple theme, but I want you to have handy search for any small syntax that you look at. All we're trying to do is either to convert this into string, back from string to integers, or I can make this itself string. That's an easy thing to do as well. Python string to in. Perfect. That's it. So for this case, you just use a simple integer function team, and that should do a conversion. But there are multiple approaches to the same. Like you're saying, you could do this as a string comparison. But let's convert this into int overall and repeat our code. So we still if else, we're not in the match switch case. So let's see this. All right, we've come here. So I'm repeating the same mistake. Standard is not a valid one, so I'll say 1, continue. Class is integer. I don't need this going forward. So I'll comment it from the next iteration. Want to check more? Yeah. But why is this not happening, team? And the main reason being your input also has to go back into the loop, right? You can't just collect the input one time. You're repeatedly collecting the input. So that would be the reason. So I'm going to stop this and rerun. Cancel. Let's see what happens with 0 in this case. The end. So we're reaching the end when I'm able to enter 0. So that works. Now, will it take inputs multiple times? Let's see. Okay, so we have here, so I'm in Sun, and it says it doesn't recognize. So I'll say 1 to continue, enter day of the week, I'll say Sunday, and it recognizes. Now I'll stop. I'll say 0, and the end. There we go, perfect. So this is okay, team, when it is with using it. If this is true, if this is not true, then else if this is true, day belongs to one of this in this list, else this is what we're going to do. So the multiple conditions, just to change that into a switch case terminology, the syntax is almost the same thing, switch case and match case, just the additional features on what it's doing. And look here, it's got the comparison match case and if else. Link also I put it there from data camp. You can look at it. Introduced in Python 3.1, uses keywords if else, uses keywords match and case. So a lot of basic explanation, but let's see performance. Potentially more performant with complex patterns. Readability, more concise. So readability is the other thing. How easy is a code to read through? Sometimes this may look clumsy, and that is what we want to be able to solve. So the same code now with match case, I still use switch case, is like this tree. Everything is same. This portion. What do I have? I have day. Good. Match day, case, Saturday or Sunday. Okay, day is a weekend. Or in case Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Or this is the default case underscore. And it is primarily the comparison also that we were looking at earlier is talking about the readability aspect, where how easy is it for us to read as a developer, as an end user. Scope use cases, ideal for complex data structure and deconstruction. It is okay to use if else if for a simpler one. Then you have to do a little bit of pattern matching, uppercase, lowercase, those things. Match case provides more assistance to us. So this is cool. We're going to take this back into our program. Before that, a last one. The reason all these are important thing is we're going to combine this learning from functions, Lambda, match, switch case, and the try except to take it back into our API automation. Let's try except. All right. So what is it that is saying in try except? You basically have runtime errors team. Errors that occur without you knowing. Things like, let's say, if I say I equals to 0 and j equals to 10, a simplest thing like k equals j divided by I will lead to an error. So if I say print k, I won't be able to do it. The reason is, do you know why no assistance of the guide assistance on why it's not giving me any errors or different colors for it? Because I did name it as a Python file. I'm going to rename this. Refactor is when I'm renaming it for across any other projects if it is already used. So it'll try and look through the same file in other projects and rename it everywhere that it is used. All right, try except.py. There we go. So let's run this and see what happens. Runtime error thing is everything looks okay in syntax, so there's no syntax error. You're able to run the program. But after the execution is when you enter into an issue. And things like it basically tells you, of course, where did it occur? It occurred in line 6 itself. We didn't even go to line 8. The reason being zero division error, division by zero. But what if I want to print, even if that is, I just wanted to ignore if that's the case, print the n has to come to me, even though I'm not able to print k. So how do we do that? Because sometimes you'll have thousands of lines of code. Let's say something occurred in 30th or 40th line of code. You don't want, in certain scenarios, for the other code not to be executed. You want it to still continuing to execute the other piece of code. That power to be able to say when to continue, if an error occurs, when not to continue, is what try except is giving to us. So let's take a very simple case. And in our case, when we are especially dealing with microservices and API, you are consistently sending, we come to NumPy later, so I accidentally clicked on it. Try except else finally. Okay. So else finally, we can look at it, but the code try except thing, the syntax is very simple. We'll try a certain code. If there's an exception, I'll write about that exception. So that's about it. So in this case, what is the code that I'm trying? Which portion of my code is susceptible to a failure? Okay. Now, the where it occurred earlier was on line 6. A simple assignment like I equals 10 or j equals to 0, whatever, wouldn't fail anywhere, team. There's no reason for it to fail. But even a line like k equals j by I should not fail. But what if j or I is non-integer or a string? What if it is 0? Then there are issues. And that is the reason code where you do not know what the outcome could be, it is dependent on certain variables and other aspects, you will try to execute that code. If that code executes, you can say things like, one second. Print could do, or an exception occurred and hence it could not do. So at any case, if I give, let's say, j equals to 1, it almost looks like a while or if else code tree, but it is actually pretty different the way it is working. It has two options. It will try a certain code. If nothing happens, it will come out of it. So it could do the end and 10.2. If I say same thing, j equals to 0, it goes to a little different path. So it will execute the code that is there from line 12. And for us in Python, it's just the tab indent scheme that we're providing. That is enough to say that it's a new line of code. No semicolons or other delimiters for it. In this case, there we go. Why did it still occur? Because I didn't comment line 6. Let's comment line 6. There we go. So what I meant to say is earlier when we did it, the print statement, the end never got executed. And the reason being very simple. It found an error earlier to it, a major one, and it doesn't want to execute anything beyond that. With a try except, we're giving it an exception. Try this code, if something happens, then we have an exception. Do the following. Sometimes you're doing something else. Instead of doing it by 1, 0, you'll divide it by 1 or whatever, that's a different route. That gives you the choice. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're able to continue with the code even though an issue happens. Perfect. Any other questions on it? API. Let's go back there. 07. API. Test framework. Slowly we're getting into kind of a framework. Very simple, but extremely efficient and effective. Okay, so for this, I'm going to go back to our code and get some of the code that we wrote. That should be important. I'm not playing with the data sets right now. So all I need is from here on. Oops, let me take the whole thing and delete what I don't. Any questions, please? I know I've been going through a flow of writing a little code, reading through some of the guides that we have. But I wanted to make sure that we get the good fundamentals laid. So it should be pretty easy from there on for us. So read my string location. I think we tested this. I don't need this now. What am I doing? Where's my CSV? CSV would be Google Drive. I'll come to it. Okay, max rows. For I in range max R. So print input this. Let's see. It prints from. I'm expecting it to print all the rows. Is it sending an API call? No, it is just reading the CSV. Why is it not doing anything? It's either too slow or something is stuck. There is an issue. We had an issue with the last row. Now I remember, because and that is what we want to be able to also try. So what am I saying? That if there's an issue, we'll go to the next one. So this whole code that we're doing here is something that can fail. So I can have multiple try blocks or statements. In this case, I'm saying try this code. And if there's an exception, we'll do something here. Print let's try to execute the same one again. Because why I have the end. And I always want the end to happen. So I know that the code successfully run. If it found any issues while executing that code, let it figure it out. It should be smart enough to come out of its own issues it faces. So did you see that? Remember when it gave us 60 rows, that was a big problem. It is assuming that there are 60 rows, and each time it is doing this. All right. Now, what is it that we want to do, team? Depending on what it is, see, for the first input test case, what else am I printing? Rows, test case 1, test case 2, test case 3. An exception occurred for everything else. Where is my method in this? Oh, I didn't print method. I'm running it again, team, just so that we have a new, and then we can expand from there. Okay, I've reached the end. That's good for me. And there we go. So I have a get, I have two posts out here. So what is it that I want to do, team? Depending on what we're doing here, I might want to define a function where I'll say API at or anything. And into this, I might send a set of variables. So I'll just call this as star v. What am I doing right now here? Let's see. And what I want to do is I want to use an if statement and do something like, look at this. In fact, as you scroll through this blog, you'll see what you want to achieve depending on what you're sending. I also wrote a little bit of that code here, but it's a simple same thing. Let's copy this thing. Match each of this, and method is what we're sending. So copy this, go back to our code here, define. So I don't know where I'm sending the method in, but let's say if I want to call, the way I'm sending it is yeah, and here first I'm sending the test case, okay? Then I'm sending the endpoint, very important, that's the URL. Then my V method. So this is my third attribute. So if it is my third attribute, what is it that I'm doing wrong here? V method, this is, let's say V2, that gets me that data. So yeah, this is only because of the indent, I believe. Now it's okay. Yeah, now it's fine. Method, and if I have a payload, I'm sending that also in as the final one. So if the method is get, what is it that we want to do, team? If the method is get, all I'm doing is getting that and getting my status code and so on. So here, and if it is post, okay, and my data body is there. Okay. Did I import request first for this? Let me close all of this. Close all tabs. Hmm, I'm doing the same mistake over in the tab here. So okay, so here, and let's see, fetching resource. So biggest problem being I don't have the import code for request, so I put that in, and I don't have the endpoint here. Endpoint is coming in as VEP, that is the second variable, so V1. Print R1, okay, that's fine. Print R1 underscore status code. In this case, what I also want to do is return a couple of things. Status code, I want to return time. I want to be able to return the body or what output we got to the JSON. So these things should be possible for us. So in case it is get, that is what we're doing. In case it is post, that's our match case helping us here. We're creating a resource. I'm doing V1 here. I think this is V3 now, the fourth item in that index. Is it getting boring, team, monotonous, or are you able to understand? How we're learning small things and trying to make sure that we can put it in our code so that it's easy for us. I don't have a case for put, delete, or the default, but we'll leave it there for now. Okay, because for future we might need. So what am I doing is print R2 status code, and print R2 JSON in this case. So I am expecting it to run for the first three, but not after that. And exception occurs. So if its exception is occurring for every other row, it's not going to call as well. And that's fine. I'm seeing how to stop it at exception occurred. I can always say that, hard code it to, instead of max R, just put it to, let's say, max of 4 rows. Instead of max R, I'm saying 4, seeing the range. Let's try. Is it going to make a call? Is it going to get what it did? But this time using a function and also using try except match case and so on. Okay, let's look at this. The first one, test case 1. All right, fetching resource, perfect. Response 200. That is what we got from the print. Where is it? Out here. And then the next print statement is actually only the status code. Next input test case 002. Okay, and in here we have also payload. It's creating a resource and it got 201. We expected 201 also. When we come back tomorrow, we will also do the fetch and response, the response is local variables, test and update CSV. So these are the pending activities now for us. In fact, for each of this, we can write another method, but some of it might be done within the API action itself. At least load back whatever I get into something. In fact, I don't need R1, R2 and all the same. It's only one. So we can change this to something like my response. That's it. So wherever I see this, I'll say my R. Come on. Come to let's. Okay, so this print is what I'll do is I'm going to print it here within the function, but after the status code and JSON. Sorry, a little clumsy in this coding for now. Wait a second. My R dot JSON. That is written. So basically, I don't need to do any of this here because that will be done in the common steps, the print statement. See how the code can get easily. Where am I saving it? Can I save it as a new version? There's no save as team. It is all the time doing it by itself. So my status code. But what if there's no JSON there? So even this print, I'll put it into a small try except. Add them. I'm still in this function team, so it's all in the def as of now. Except just a print saying that issue with what is the issue exactly, what kind of an exception occurred, what do we do, we'll do later. But not just like that. Issue in response. I'll just say that for now. So if there's no JSON, it should be able to tell me that. Otherwise, it should print each of them. And I'll print a line divider after this. I know where to differentiate. All right, let's go another round. You got the idea, team? So now it is getting a little bit more convenient for us to handle things as they come. Okay, perfect. Let's see. The exception occurred is here. Issue and response is here. So let's do the first one. Creating resource. Fetching resource. Okay, this is good. I'm printing my.status code JSON. So it's making it a little better code. Response is this. Status is this. Body of our response is this. That's what comma I can use for. Just to be able to differentiate what I'm saying. So if you look at it, team, the first get when we gave it for what was the URL also? Let's see. Let it run 1 second. Okay. Page 2 and fetching resource. We're sending it to get, and what we got from that is where is it? Issue and response, issue and response, issue and response for everything. My R. It was working fine earlier, correct? It didn't print anything. What did I do wrong? I'm able to undo. So let's control C number 1. I'll put it in the new code. 08 API test framework dot. Okay, so but I'm going back here, number 7, and trying to undo. The files affected by this action have been already changed. I can't undo now. That's fine. I'll fix this tomorrow when we meet. Primarily, something happened. Match is, then we're printing this. Except so everything is correct. What is wrong? I don't know the response. So, and that is the problem with try except team. As soon as you use try, it will not show you the original issue. So unless you have a code that is totally working, you will not use try except. Once you have mastered the try, the code is working in regular, then you can use your try except for it. Now we will understand what the issue is. Let's see. Because it will not stop that issue from coming to us. Exception. Fetching resource also exception occurred, it is saying. That is strange. Let's go back to how it was without try except for now. Same code. Same code. So that's the reason I was thinking, why should it have had an issue? Let's try this first. This works. Then we have something else to handle. No, I don't want this. Something went haywire. We did get some response earlier, but after that, this happened. But let's see for a minute more. What am I getting? Input, test case 1, get, fetching resource. And then exception occurred. Why exception occurred right here? My R, I said, is this. What is the issue? Why is there a line there? Function should be lowercase. Oh, variable in function should be lowercase. Please find and replace. R. I'll form this as R. Only R won't work here. So instead, this is V1. Fine, I think. No, I don't know. You use V again. I'll say R1 itself for everything. All right. Now I know that's the issue. See, so to get that issue out, I had to undo. I think this should be fine now. And here, I don't need any points. So this should work. And with that, we'll also finish the other one. A little overtime team today. Sorry about that, but we'll connect tomorrow. We'll go from there on. So here, what did I get? Again, nothing. R1, where is result? What? Mhm. And input, fetching resource, and then exception occurred. What is the exception that is occurring here? Unless again I log this try except, won't be able to debug. Let's debug this small thing. It should be, it was working, something got triggered off, we'll fix it. But I would want to fix it in this new one because this makes more sense for us. And it's just a suggestion, ignore errors like this. Ignore errors like this. Let's say ignore this also. But it's not even an error, it's more of a guidance or suggestion. The issue here, too broad exception clause. It wants us to narrow down the exception type clause. Looks okay. Let's do this run. It still could be doing the same thing. It is not sending in the request. See, it's not sending in any request out here for some reason. Fetching resource. If I say done, this word done is not getting printed, is what I'm thinking. What happened? I'll remove the try except and we'll debug. Now done is done. Done is coming. So it is not printing out here this code. So let me remove this and this because there's already one try except. And now let's try. Still, it's not going there. No idea why it is not able to come till here. No idea. But we'll look into it. Right. Come back. That's it, team, for now. Thank you so much for attending. Hope you're able to capture, grasp it, and practice. I'll see you all back.